Performance time, come on and run some tests. We're going to find a memory leak. I've got no friends but virtual users. Soak test never end, it's performance time. Hello and welcome to Performance Time, the show where we look at the basics of performance testing with fresh eyes. Today, we're looking at pacing. We all love it, we all use it. So what is it? Well, in the simplest terms possible, pacing is the way that we control throughput during a load test. That's what it is. So let's use an example. Let's say we have a load test suite with one business scenario, which is just to book a flight. That's it. Say we want to run a test and we want 3 virtual users to collectively book 9 flights over an hour. So that's the problem. That's the test that we want to run. So how do we do that? We use pacing. In order to run the test that I just discussed, we would have to have 3 virtual users each booking 3 flights. And they would need to book a flight every 20 minutes to achieve that within 1 hour. And that's what pacing is. It's how long each virtual user needs to complete their business scenario in order to achieve the desired throughput. Now, it's important to note that pacing isn't just a delay like think time that you put between things. It takes into account how long it took to actually do the business. So, or in this case, book the flight. So if our pacing is 20 minutes, then what the load testing tool should do is it will see how long it takes to book the flight. Let's say it takes 1.5 minutes. Then it will wait out the remaining 18.5 minutes to get to 20 minutes before it starts the next iteration or next business iteration. So that's pacing. So what's the problem with the chart here? So each purple square or rectangle is a flight being booked. The problem with the test in front of us is that there's either a situation where there are no flights being booked, or there's 3 flights being booked all at the same time. So there's this kind of staccato pattern to the load. And we generally try and avoid those patterns during our load testing. So one thing we can do is introduce a ramp up. So we might start with one virtual user, add another second virtual user a bit later, and a third virtual user later again. And in doing so, we break up the staccato pattern. But that doesn't completely solve the problem. What we really want to do is add some randomization around our pacing period. So instead of always waiting 20 minutes, let's wait 20 minutes plus or minus 50%, for example. So we actually end up waiting between 10 and 30 minutes, a random duration between those two. And then you start to break up that staccato pattern even more. Of course, this is a very simple example, almost too simple. But it helps to distribute the load in a way which is more realistic. And if you can do something fancier than plus or minus 50%, like the Poisson distribution, go ahead. Whatever the load testing tool supports or that you're comfortable programming. So there are different ways that load testing tools express pacing. So forgive me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've used load runner or neoload. But the classic way is to say the pacing is 20 minutes. We want our iterations, each flight to be booked once every 20 minutes per virtual user. That's the classic way. Visual Studio had multiple ways of expressing it. And one of them was you could just say, we want our virtual users to book a flight every 20 minutes. To book 3 flights per hour, which is very human readable and understandable for me. And then JMeter has this quirky way, which is very similar to Visual Studio, which says how many transactions, or in this case flights, per minute. And because we are actually booking one flight every 20 minutes, it comes up as 0.05 flights per minute. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to read that back, but that's how JMeter does it. And it kind of makes mathematical sense in a way. It's just a quirk of JMeter. So that's pacing. Remember, all it is it's the way that we control throughput during a load test. Next time, we'll talk about think time, which you might think is simpler, but it's not necessarily simpler than pacing. And I'll see you guys for that one very soon.